hope you're well. Today's session, okay, what I thought we would do is just talk a little bit about some stretches for you and go through some of the muscles that might be actually getting a bit tight depending on what you're doing. Now, obviously, if I don't touch anything on the session that you wanted to particularly go over, then please do ask. For those people that are in the group, you can come in on our live interactive one, which is on Wednesday at 7:30, okay? And we can chat about that, okay? So, everybody else that can see this, we're just going to think about things that we might be doing. Now, obviously, there is a lot of people that are going out walking now that weren't walking before, which is marvellous. However, what can happen is lots of things can get tight, yeah? Also what might have happened is that certain parts of the body might have been tight to start, and now we're all sort of setting off walking, and you might be ending up with a few injuries. Hopefully not, but okay, so generally when you're walking, right, it's these calf muscles here that are going to get tight, because when you're walking, what should happen is your ankles should move. So if your ankles are moving, then the main muscle that's doing the most work is this muscle here and here. Mostly this that pushes you off and moves. So a lot of people will say, well, don't you use the other muscles? Well, it depends how you walk, doesn't it? I mean, if you walk like this, the John Cleese funny walk, then obviously all these muscles are going to be working, but I don't think a lot of people are walking like that. If you're walking up hills, then obviously it's a bigger movement and more muscles have to work to help you with the movement. But generally speaking, most people who are doing just, normal sort of activity, walking, it's the calves, okay? So the calves will be tight. Now, to stretch the calves, I want you to be particularly careful about the way in which you stretch them. So the first thing you have to be aware of is you have to get the level right in a stretch, okay? And there's hundreds of stretches out there and lots of different ways to do it, but the levels can be very, very different. Now, the easiest calf stretch to do is just to stand like this, take that foot back slightly and just feel the stretch in the lower leg. Now, when you're doing a stretch, or whenever for that matter, I always try and get people not to stand like this, because what you're going to do is you're going to put these vertebrae in your lumbar spine in a very compromised position. So that's where you'll sometimes get people when you do this, is they'll say, put your hands on the wall and hold your hands there, your head's in alignment with your spine, and you'll feel the stretch there, okay? It does change the intensity of the stretch, also where your arms are, and it's to do with how the weight is transferred down into that part that you're stretching, okay? But that's another story, okay? So the easiest stretch for you to do is that. Now, don't take your foot immediately too far back, because you have no idea how tight this muscle is, yeah? So I would suggest when you do it, take it back to there, and at TDM, we call it the wiggle increment, yeah? We bring the foot up and we wiggle, and we take it back down. And by using our wiggle increment, it gives us a very small increase in intensity, yeah? It's a small increment. If you don't feel it, again, apply the wiggle increment, take the foot back, and eventually you will feel it. Now, give it enough time to actually get into the stretch. Try and not go, oh, I don't feel it. Oh, still don't feel it, yeah? Give it time. Once you get the stretch, yeah, and you might find, well, inevitably you will, you'll find that one muscle is always tighter than the other. And another thing to be careful of on your calf stretch, guys, is please check that when you do it, your foot doesn't turn that way, yeah? Generally, I find with patients and clients that when that happens, is because they've taken the foot too far back and your body, oh, don't like that. So it turns it that way. The minute you do it like that, you'll feel the stretch more. So subconsciously, when you go into the stretch, you go into it and your body goes, oh, that's too tight. So it changes, yeah? The body's fascinating and it's very, very clever, thankfully, and it compensates, yeah? So if you suddenly go, take it back, and it goes, oh, that's too tight, it'll just turn it in, yeah? So make sure your feet are in alignment, okay? So a calf stretch. Now, something else that you might see people do in relation to that calf stretch is they might do what we call a ballistic, a dynamic, or you're basically bouncing into it, okay? Ballistic, dynamic, a bouncy stretch. And you do get people doing that. It has a place, but it's another way in which to stretch a muscle. And more specific to perhaps a sport that you were doing, yeah? So if you were doing a particular sport which required your muscle to stretch dynamically, yeah? So running, I don't know, ballet, yeah? Gymnastics, then yeah, I would suggest that you do different kinds of stretches dependent on what activity you are going to perform, yeah? However, when you do a ballistic or dynamic stretch, what happens is, yeah, you do it with a force. So if there's a force applied, it is going to go beyond the range that you may normally do when you do a static. Now, a lot of the time when a dynamic one is very apparent is if you're hanging off the step, yeah, you'll get a lot of people where they stand on the edge of the step and they drop the heel down. They would do it with both heels, and because you drop the heel down and because you're hanging off something, it increases the amount of force going down through that area. So therefore it increases the intensity, yeah? So that would be a dynamic stretch, yeah? That would also be a dynamic stretch, bang, yeah? And that's why it's so important, because a lot of these things, that's a classic sort of fitness thing that you might do, yeah, and the heels would be getting pushed down. Now, if you go into something like that, and you've got ridiculously tight calves already, and you suddenly go, wee, like this, there's every possibility that you're going to pull your calf muscle. Also, other areas which can be compromised there, your Achilles tendon is around there, and that's a classic one. If your calves are tight and that area is tight and you inadvertently drop off a curb or you run up a hill and your calves are too tight, the force will go down through there, and that's when we start to get these nasty injuries in the Achilles tendon. Trust me, you don't want that to happen, okay? So that's why you would have to be careful if you were doing these sort of dynamic stretches. So I personally would advise you to test your calves. Take yourself and test your calves. Now, if your calves, if your foot is only about here and you think, wow, oh, I can really feel that in my calf, your calves are really tight, yeah? If you're going back to about there, generally, yeah, that's not too bad. If you're way back here, then you don't particularly have tight calves, okay? The trouble is that everybody's perception of what is tight is quite different, yeah? I can feel my calf stretching there. Somebody might say, oh, I don't feel that, but their perception of what a stretch is can be quite different to the other person. So I want you to think about a stretch as not being uncomfortable. Try and think about it as a point of tension. And for safety, yeah, go to the lowest point and think, well, do I actually feel a point of tension, a slight stretch? And just do it gradually. yeah? Try and just don't be inclined to take the foot right back and go, wow, I can feel that, yeah? Because we want you to stretch your muscles safely so that you don't injure yourself and keep them at a length where they're not going to get damaged. So, if you're all going out more walking, I would please, yes, definitely tell you to start stretching your calves, okay? So, static calf stretch, nice and simple. Adjust the distance, hand is here, yep. Apply the force, the weight of the body is transferred down so it does become slightly more intense stretch. Take it back as required. If you then want to add in a ballistic stretch to the calves, dependent on what your activity is, then that is a ballistic or dynamic or bouncy, yeah? Different ways of describing that stretch, okay? Yeah? So, I'm going to leave that with you. If you've got any questions, please do come on to the TDM page and ask me, and I would be delighted to help you, okay? But I'll let you digest that one, and I shall see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye.